killing someone point blank is a different thing. And intentionally making a plan, hatching a plan, and massacring 11 to 12 people is a completely different kind of a mindset you require. Just like what Nazis did or what Hitler was doing, they segregated the passengers based on their religion. The Jews and Israelis were segregated in one portion, and non-Jews and non-Israelis were segregated to the other portion. Lack of information often leads to a situation where we just think that, oh my God, this is something which has happened for the first time. Absolutely not. Previously, these terrorists were Western educated, very suave, cigarette smoking, elegantly dressed. That changed. I'm talking from the perspective of a common man. Since last 25 years, a terrorist is someone who looks in a certain way for us. What has happened during the planning of Red Fort blast is nothing new. And this white-collar terrorists have always been part of our society and our culture. It is not something which has just come up, all of a sudden from out of the blue.
Namaste, welcome to another sit-down session of Sangam Talks, and we have with us today Dr. Sanchita Bhattacharya. Thank you, ma'am.
Namaste.
Thank you for taking your time to join us.
Namaste. Thanks.
And we will talk about today a very unique subject related to a recent incident. We'll talk about that later, but before that, let me introduce Dr. Sanchita. Dr. Sanchita Bhattacharya is a research fellow in New Delhi-based Institute of Conflict Management. She is part of a South Asia Terrorism Portal project. She has co-authored the book, which is called The Taliban Misrule in Afghanistan, with Musa Khan Jalalzai. She works on terrorism and socio-political issues of Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and India. Her articles and commentaries have been published in the Interpreter, the Quint, East Asia Forum, Australian Outlook, the Kabul Times, the Friday Times, the Outlook, First Post, etc. She has written research papers in national and international journals and also contributed chapters to various edited volumes. So, Dr. Sanchita, thank you once again, and I will start with, I mentioned the recent incident. We will talk about that in between the session. The frenzy of white-collar terrorism, quote unquote, is very much around after the Red Fort blast of November 10. What is your opinion on this term? I mean, it's gaining traction nowadays, and why this white-collar terrorism? What that terms means actually? Could you please elaborate?
Thank you, Debasis ji, and also thanks to Sangam Talks for inviting me. And I hope our discussion would be enriching for both of us and our audience as well. So, as we all know, last month, November 10th, there has been a suspected suicide bomb blast in the vicinity of Delhi's Red Fort, in which around 10 to 11 people were killed. According to NIA's estimation, 11 people, to be precise enough, were killed. So since then, it's been a sort of a month, and we are seeing that this particular term, white-collar terrorist or white-collar terrorism, is gaining traction, as you rightly mentioned, and it has actually become a buzz, and it has become a frenzy among Indian media houses and both, the print media and the online media and the audiovisual media. And as if the word has suddenly cropped up from nowhere, it has suddenly came out of the blue. But why this phrase is getting traction? Because the suspected suicide bomber, Umar Nabi, was a doctor. Okay, and along with him, all his other accomplices, unfortunately, were also doctor. His other accomplices were like Adil Ahmad Radar, Muzammil Ghani, Shaheen Shahid, Dr. Arif, and Nisarul Hassan. These 5 to 6 people were doctor. So the media has picked up this term, white-collar terrorist or white-collar terrorism, and since then it's been very much in vogue. So, but I would like to break this myth that suddenly out of nowhere this phrase has come up, and as if it has never occurred before in the history of terrorism, especially since the end of Second World War. This phrase is neither new nor is it an emerging trend. A white collar terrorist, he or she can be a doctor, can be an engineer, architect, teacher, professor, whatever. And it is actually very interesting, because what is the image of a terrorist in your mind? As a common man, if I ask you, how would you explain a terrorist outwardly? How would you explain a terrorist outwardly?
First thing come to mind, they must be uneducated, not educated enough to be, brainwashed in radicalism by some, religious guy from their faith. Well,
Yeah.
we all know which
Yes.
faith I'm talking
Yes. We have this image of a terrorist who has a certain.
It's a concern to us that most of these, perpetrators are doctors.
Yes,
And
it
lot
is.
of other
Yeah.
things are coming up.
Yes, it is so. Just tell me, who is the most dreadful terrorist of all times? If I have to ask you.
Osama bin Laden?
Yeah. And he was not a madrasa product.
No, he is an engineer.
He is not even an engineer. It is again a misnomer. He had a degree in public administration from King Faisal University in Jeddah, and his father was a multi-trillionaire.
Elite.
Yes, absolutely elite family. His father was a multi-trillionaire. He was an icon. He was a business tycoon. He had like business establishment in most of the world. So the dreadful terrorist of all the time, as of now to come, is Osama bin Laden, who was educated in Western style and secular style. Along with that, I would like to go back 25 years to the horrific incident of 9/11, when two towers of World Trade Center were like hit by these jihadi terrorists and were completely demolished. The main person who was involved, Muhammad Atta, who was actually flying flight number 11 and which hit the North Tower of World Trade Center, was an architectural engineer. So isn't it a white collar terrorist, going by the term which Indian media is using right now? Not only he, along with him, the three other people who were part of the Hamburg cell. Actually, if you see, Osama bin Laden was a facilitator. He was a financer. He was a facilitator of 9/11. The actual plan was carried out by 4 people. Muhammad Atta, along with Ramzi bin Shib, Marwan al-Sheikhi and Zia Jarrah. So all these 4 people were part of the Hamburg cell, and all of them were pursuing higher education in Germany. So weren't they
Clearly in architecture.
No. He was an architect, not the others, but they were doing they were pursuing higher education in other discipline, which is not related to religion or philosophy, something like that. So isn't it white collar terrorism?
Yes, sure. Look at the connection, right? They choose an architect, and their aim is to blow off a building.
Yeah. This is an irony actually. And as I was saying, if we stretch back to like till like about end of Second World War, in the 70s, 2 most important events in the history of international terrorism. First was the Munich Olympic massacre, in which 11 Israeli athletes were brutally murdered, and it was conducted by BSO, Black September Organization, and its chief, BSO's chief, Ali Hassan Salameh, who's also notoriously known as the Red Prince, was educated in Germany. Obviously, he was not product of a madrasa. He was not product of a maktab.
If I am not very wrong, maybe the choosing of those dates, they are also religiously connected.
That is a different thing, let's not go there, because
I'm just getting the connection between these educated people and their religious, mindset.
That will come later. That we will.
Really irrational, but in their mind, that's only rational thing.
So BSO chief, Red Prince, as I was saying, he was educated in Germany. One of the planners of this massacre, Muhammad Daoud, who's also known as Abu Daoud, was a teacher. He used to teach mathematics and physics to school children. So how would you explain it? Wasn't he not a white collar terrorist? a very unassuming teacher who is doing his duty, going to his school, teaching, taking up classes, and very honest in his profession, teaching students and everything. He picks up the idea and he decides to, hatch a plan in which these innocent athletes were brutally murdered. Killing someone point blank is a different thing. And intentionally making a plan, hatching a plan, and massacring 11 to 12 people is a completely different kind of a mindset you require. Another person who was part of this plan was Mahmoud al-Hamshari. He was also part of the military wing of PLO. And unfortunately, he himself again was a school teacher. So these three examples of 70s which I gave, one was educated in Germany and the rest two were school teachers. So definitely it is nothing else than, if you're following the phrase, white collar terrorism. The second horrific incident which happened in 1976 was the hijack of Air France Flight 139 by PFLP militants. PFLP stands for Popular Front of Liberation of Palestine. There is a very good book on this topic which is called 90 Minutes at Entebbe. So, and there have been many documentaries and movies which have been made based on the book. Mission Thunderbolt is also a movie. 90 Minutes at Entebbe is another movie. What happens? This Air France flight takes off from Tel Aviv, Israel. It halts in Greece and then it had a stopover in Greece and it was supposed to reach France, Paris. When the flight takes off from Greece, these militants of PFLP hijack the flight and they divert the route of the flight to the African continent, which is just, if you see Greece and Africa, is just the, downward towards the south, and they take the flight to Entebbe, which is the capital of Uganda. At that time, Uganda was under the dictatorship of Idi Amin. And just like what Nazis did or what Hitler was doing, they segregated the passengers based on their religion. The Jews and Israelis were segregated in one portion and non-Jews and non-Israelis were segregated to the other portion. And the non-Jew and non-Israelis were, they were released. And out of moral compulsion or sense of responsibility, the entire crew of Air France refused to be released. They said, we will stay. The captain refused to be released. He said, it is my moral obligation, it is my duty, I'll stay back with these people. And out of 106 hostages, IDF, Israel's Defense Force, IDF was able to rescue 102.
Yeah.
And the only person who was martyred from IDF side was Jonathan Netanyahu. And who is Jonathan Netanyahu? He is the older brother of Benjamin Netanyahu. So there is a special military unit within IDF which is called Sairat Matkal, which is a kind of, like we also have Ghatak force or something in Indian army. So they also act like that. It's called Sairat Matkal and they are they are trained for such high profile cases, for such high risk cases. So these two incidents were again part of the white collar terrorism, and the person who planned the entire hijack of Air France 139 and the later developments that took place was a medical doctor. His name was Wadi Haddad or Abu Hani. Most of these terrorists have more than one name, aliases or AKA. Wadi Haddad, AKA Abu Hani, who himself was a doctor. So how would you explain this? I'm talking about 1976 and right now it is end of 2025. So, lack of information often leads to a situation where we just think that, oh my God, this is something which has happened for the first time. Absolutely not. But the change took place since late 70s with Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. One change happened, and Iranian Revolution. When this
Islamic Revolution.
Iranian Islamic Revolution, when this religious zealot Ayatollah Khomeini was invited from Paris to come back to Iran. It is again a long story. These two important events actually mark the coming 30 years of international politics and terrorism, especially in West Asia and South Asia. So, with the coming of Soviet, what happened? The resistance was given by the Mujahideens. Here the change happens. Previously, these terrorists were Western educated, very suave, cigarette smoking, elegantly dressed. If you see all of these terrorists I just mentioned right now, if you see their picture, they look like any other European or maybe American. But with the coming of Mujahideen into the scene, the entire outer structure of a single terrorist changed.
Now, one thought coming to mind: the Wrath of God operation by Mossad.
Yes.
After the
Munich. Yes. As I was mentioning, that is a long-drawn process of Wrath of God. Is a long-drawn, operation which happened at multiple levels.
And you that movie.
Munich by Spielberg. Yes.
They characterize the characters of this white-collar terrorists.
Yes.
Very well there.
Yes.
So as you mentioning, the
Yes.
cigarette smoking.
Yes, cigarette smoking, cigar smoking, very suave, wearing proper well-stitched suit and everything. So that changed from Kalashnikov trotting, shalwar kameez wearing, a tall, rugged person with a huge turban on his head and a long beard. So since then, I would say, in public memory, the image of a random terrorist is that of a Mujahideen. If we see our generation or the generation just after us, or a generation, not maybe our parents' generation, because our parents' generation saw Munich. Our parents' generation saw the hijack of Air France, and they saw other activities as well. So maybe not for them, but from our generation onwards, we have that image, that particular template of a terrorist. With long beard and wearing shalwar kameez, he has maybe a rocket launcher on his back or a Kalashnikov in his hand, turban, very rugged, very, very different kind of an image. So that's how, this entire change happened. From French-speaking and English-speaking terrorist to someone who speaks in Arabic or in Dari or in Pashto. And it is happening since the 80s, late 70s to 80s. And the situation became more, complicated with the coming of Taliban into the scene in the 90s. Because most of these Mujahideens, they morphed into Taliban when they took power in Afghanistan. Okay. And it further changed with the inclusion of the element of Al-Qaeda post 9/11, as we will see. And since that time onwards, as now we have this frenzy of white-collar terrorists, since 9/11, the frenzy of madrasa students being part of a terror cell was picked up by media. Many people will not agree with me, but that is how it has happened.
And down the line, they are confident enough. I'm giving a perception. Maybe it's a popular perception also. The perpetrators who are being held for that related to the Lal Killa blast. Well, look at their aesthetics. They looked what they're supposed to look like, but they are white collar. What that means is they are doctors, most of them, and they are not only connected to the blast, creating explosives in their
hostel rooms and all. Yeah.
In their hostel rooms.
Yeah, but yes, actually, it is there.
And some news are coming out that they're using their status to, killing babies, unborn children in the womb of the pregnant.
I'm not aware because no, I don't think so, because I will not go by Indian media, what Indian media is saying. We have to wait for the NIA press release, okay? Because according to NIA, 11 people have been killed, or we have to wait for the court proceedings. This is a sub judice case right now, so we really don't know what is happening. And Indian media has been going crazy since 1 month, I would say. I'm sorry to say this. So as I'm going back to what I was discussing about how the madrasa product, how the popular perception changed. One of the reasons why popular perception changed was because of the 9/11 Commission report. I'm just going through 2 to 3 lines of this report where there's a mention of madrasa students. Now, I'm quoting the report. Millions of families, especially those with little money, send their children to religious schools or madrasas. Many of these schools are the only opportunity available for an education, but some have been used as incubators for violent extremism. According to Karachi's police commander, there are 859 madrasas teaching more than 2 lakh youngsters in his city alone, unquote. So this is just a very small portion of the 9/11 Commission report. Anybody amongst our audience who's interested can read and download the report. It is available. Why I refer to this report and why I'm saying that? Because the image, the attention of common person, attention of a common man shifted from these white collars drastically towards someone who is a hybrid of Mujahideen, Taliban and Al-Qaeda with a certain outer structure. We are not going into the psychology of terrorism because that is a different thing. I'm talking from the perspective of a common man. Since last 25 years, a terrorist is someone who looks in a certain way for us. Whether we are right or wrong, that is a different story. And another factor which came into the light was the association of Darul Haqqaniya in Akoda Khatak, which is near Peshawar. It was known to be the birthplace of Taliban.
The Haqqani network.
Yes, which is actually part of the Taliban. And it's the then principal was Maulana Samiul Haq, who's actually known as the father of the Taliban. So these, like I mentioned, the 9/11 report, I'm mentioning this Akoda Khatak connection, and these were the factors which pulled the image of hardcore radical who looks and behaves in a certain way into the center of popular imagination. Okay, but
common people, as we are forced to, accept the normalization of that.
Yes, definitely. But at the same time, the white collars were also doing their work. If you remember, during Kandahar, 3 terrorists were released by Indian government. So Maulana Masood Azhar, just after his release, a few months after his release, he forms Jaish-e-Mohammad. Okay. What does Ahmad Saeed Sheikh do after that? Why am I mentioning the name of Ahmad Umar Saeed Sheikh? To be particular enough, because he was a student of London School of Economics. Okay. And he is the one who planned the abduction and then beheading of Daniel Pearl in 2002 in Karachi. Daniel Pearl was a reporter of Wall Street Journal. He was staying with his family, with his pregnant wife, heavily pregnant wife in Karachi. Amongst our audience, whoever is interested to know about Daniel Pearl can watch the movie The Mighty Heart, where I think Angelina Jolie plays the role of his wife. And anybody can call me anything, anybody can give any damn logic about it. But Daniel Pearl knew that if he gets killed any point in his life, especially in Pakistan, it would be because of his identity. And his wife would be very scared. Like, if someone asks about your identity, please deny it. Don't say that you are a Jew. He was not an Israeli, he was an American Jew. And he would be very much, out there in the open that why would I deny my identity? And they asked him about his identity when he was abducted, and he claimed, and he was very proud and he owned his identity. He was meticulously abducted and meticulously beheaded by this planner who was a student of London School of Economics. So isn't it white collar crime? Isn't it white collar terrorism? And secondly, you must be remembering, many people must be remembering this. Like 10 years back, there was a person called Jihadi John. In most of the cases, in most of the execution videos, beheading videos of ISIS, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, which is also known as Daesh, you will see a masked man in most of the beheading videos who became notoriously known as Jihadi John. He was basically a Kuwaiti British person whose name was Muhammad Imwazi.
Converted?
No. He was not converted. He was an ethnic Kuwaiti.
Okay.
Yeah, he was an ethnic Kuwaiti, a British, yes, citizen. And he was later killed in Raqqa, Syria in 2015. He was eliminated. Okay, so why am I mentioning the name of Jihadi John? Because he had a degree in information systems and business management from University of Westminster. So I'm just showing you few examples over a period of time like 30 to 40 years just to prove my case that what has happened during the planning of Red Fort blast is nothing new. And this white collar terrorists have always been part of, our society and our culture. It is not something which has just come up, all of a sudden from out of the blue.
So let's come back to the Indian scenario. What you thought about it, about related to the current situation, and also there are some historical facts. Historically there have been incidents perpetrated by such people which we can connect to today's topic as well, I think. So could you please elaborate on that?
In Indian context, we all are aware of SIMI, Student Islamic Movement of India. It was later banned by the government, Indian government, and a portion of SIMI morphed into Indian Mujahideen, IM. Indian Mujahideen was one of the most, if I don't want to use the word deadliest, but it was one of the most potent terror organization if you go back like 20 years or 20 to 15 years, with a range of around 2006 or 2005 to 6. Since till 2012-13, it created havoc inside the country.